You scroll past another attractive photo. Your heart races. Your breath quickens. You tell yourself it's natural, normal, just biology doing its thing. You swipe right on dating apps, feeling that familiar pull toward someone's image. You chase that electric feeling of new attraction. You mistake intensity for connection. You find yourself drawn to the same type of person, over and over, even when logic screams they're wrong for you. But what if what you think is lust isn't lust at all? What if that magnetic pull you feel toward certain people has nothing to do with desire and everything to do with an ancient wound that's been bleeding inside you since childhood? This is where Carl Jung's revolutionary insight cuts through everything we think we know about attraction. The great Swiss psychiatrist discovered something that makes most people deeply uncomfortable. We don't fall in lust with people. We fall in lust with our own unfinished business. Picture a child who never felt truly seen by their father. Fast forward 20 years. That child, now an adult, finds themselves inexplicably drawn to emotionally unavailable partners. They call it chemistry. They call it passion. Jung called it something else entirely. He called it the unconscious trying to heal itself. See, your psyche doesn't distinguish between then and now. It doesn't care that you're 35 with a mortgage and a 401k. Deep in your unconscious mind, you're still that 7-year-old desperate for daddy's attention. So you create situations that feel familiar. You're drawn to partners who withhold affection the same way your father did. You mistake the anxiety of trying to win them over for excitement. You confuse the pain of rejection with passion, and you call it lust. But Jung understood something most of us miss. What we experience as sexual desire is often our wounded inner child trying to complete an unfinished story. Jung introduced two concepts that explain why we're magnetically pulled toward certain people: the anima and the animus. The anima is the feminine aspect within every man. The animus is the masculine aspect within every woman. But here's where it gets interesting. These aren't just abstract psychological concepts. They're living, breathing parts of your unconscious that were shaped by your earliest relationships. If you're a man, your anima was formed by your relationship with your mother. Every interaction with her, every moment of connection or disconnection, carved patterns into your unconscious about what feminine energy means. If you're a woman, your animus was shaped by your father. His presence or absence, his warmth or coldness, his strength or weakness, all of it became the template for masculine energy in your psyche. Now here's the part that will make you uncomfortable. You don't choose who you're attracted to based on conscious preferences. You're attracted to people who activate these unconscious patterns. People who feel familiar in ways you can't explain. People who trigger the same emotional frequencies you experienced as a child. This is why you keep ending up with the same type of person, just wearing different faces. Jung observed something that modern dating culture refuses to acknowledge. We have an unconscious compulsion to repeat our earliest relational patterns. It's not that we consciously choose unavailable partners or toxic relationships. It's that our unconscious mind is constantly scanning for people who will help us replay our childhood dynamics. Because somewhere deep inside, we believe that if we can just get this person to love us the way we needed to be loved as children, we can finally heal that original wound. The woman who was abandoned by her father finds herself obsessively attracted to men who disappear without explanation. The man whose mother was overwhelmingly anxious is drawn to women who create drama and chaos. The child who was criticized and never felt good enough seeks out partners who are impossible to please. We call this chemistry. We call this passion. We say things like, "I can't help who I'm attracted to." Jung would say, "You're not attracted to them. You're attracted to the wound they represent." But there's another layer to this that Jung explored through his concept of the shadow. The shadow is everything about yourself that you've rejected, repressed, or hidden away. It's all the parts of you that you decided were unacceptable when you were learning how to survive in your family system. And here's what's wild. You're often most intensely attracted to people who embody your own shadow qualities. The people-pleaser who never learned to express anger finds themselves magnetically drawn to aggressive, dominating partners. The overly responsible person who had to grow up too fast is pulled toward rebellious, carefree types who seem to live without consequences. The person who learned to suppress their sexuality is intensely attracted to people who seem uninhibited and free. What feels like lustful attraction is actually your psyche trying to reunite with the lost parts of yourself. You're not lusting after them. You're lusting after the parts of yourself you've been forbidden to express. Jung called this phenomenon projection, and it's happening in your relationships right now. You meet someone and instantly feel that spark, that undeniable pull. You create elaborate fantasies about who they are and what life would be like with them. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You're not seeing them at all. You're seeing your own unconscious content projected onto them like a movie screen. The strong, silent type who reminds you of your father. The nurturing, creative woman who feels like the mother you wish you'd had. The mysterious, unavailable person who promises to make you feel special, if you can just win them over. None of these projections are about who the person actually is. They're about what your unconscious needs them to represent. This is why so many relationships fall apart after the initial honeymoon phase. It's not that people change, it's that the projection starts to fade, and you begin to see the actual human being underneath. The disappointment you feel isn't because they deceived you, it's because you were never seeing them in the first place. You were seeing your own unhealed wounds reflected back at you. Your nervous system is wired to seek familiarity, even when that familiarity is painful. The chaos feels like home, because chaos was home. The emotional unavailability feels exciting, because it matches the template your nervous system learned to associate with love. This is why healthy, available partners often feel boring or friend-zoney. Your unconscious mind doesn't recognize stable love as real love because stable love wasn't part of your early programming. Jung understood that we're unconsciously addicted to the emotional patterns we learned in childhood. Even when those patterns cause us pain, they feel more real than anything else. So you keep choosing the same type of person, hoping this time will be different. This time, you'll be enough to make them stay. This time, you'll be worthy of consistent love. But Jung would tell you something that might be hard to hear. The healing you're seeking can't come from another person. It can only come from facing the wound directly. So how do you break free from this unconscious pattern? How do you stop confusing wounds with desire? Jung's answer was what he called individuation, the process of becoming conscious of your unconscious patterns and integrating the rejected parts of yourself. First, you have to recognize the pattern. Start paying attention to your attractions. What type of person consistently draws you in? What qualities do they share? What emotions do they trigger in you? Don't judge the pattern. Just observe it. Next, trace it back to its origins. What childhood relationship does this attraction remind you of? What was missing in your early environment that you're still trying to find? This isn't about blaming your parents or dwelling in victimhood. It's about understanding the unconscious programming that's been running your love life. Then comes the hard part, feeling the original wound without trying to fix it through another person. This means sitting with the sadness of never feeling truly seen by your mother. It means grieving the father who was too broken to show you consistent love. It means acknowledging the parts of yourself you've rejected and learning to embrace them. Only when you stop trying to heal your childhood through your relationships can you actually start having adult relationships. Jung distinguished between what he called being in love and truly loving someone. Being in love is unconscious. It's projection. It's your wounded inner child trying to complete an unfinished story. It feels intense, compulsive, and often painful. Actually loving someone is conscious. It's seeing them as they really are, not as a representation of your inner world. It's choosing to care for their well-being without needing them to heal your wounds. Real love doesn't feel like desperation disguised as passion. It doesn't require you to twist yourself into impossible shapes to earn affection. It doesn't leave you obsessing over text messages or analyzing every interaction for signs of rejection. Real love feels calm, steady, safe. And that might scare you because your nervous system has been programmed to associate love with anxiety, uncertainty, and the constant threat of abandonment. But Jung would tell you, the healing begins when you stop confusing intensity with intimacy. Here's what Jung's insight offers you: the possibility of conscious choice in love. When you understand that your attractions are often based on unconscious wounds and projections, you gain the power to pause before acting on them. Instead of immediately swiping right or planning your future with someone you just met, you can ask, what is this attraction really about? What part of my unfinished business is this person representing? This doesn't mean you become cold or calculating in love. It means you become conscious. You can still feel attracted to people. You can still experience desire. But now you have the awareness to distinguish between attractions that come from wholeness and those that come from woundedness. The goal isn't to eliminate attraction. The goal is to heal the wounds that keep you stuck in unconscious patterns, so you can choose partners who actually see you and love you, rather than partners who simply trigger familiar emotional frequencies. Right now, there's a part of you that's still 7 years old, still waiting for someone to love you the way you needed to be loved back then. That child has been driving your romantic choices, creating situations that feel familiar, even when they're painful. But that child can't be healed by finding the right partner. That child can only be healed by you, by turning toward the wound with compassion instead of trying to medicate it with relationships, by learning to give yourself the love and acceptance you've been desperately seeking from others. This is Jung's invitation, to stop outsourcing your healing to other people and to start the courageous work of becoming whole within yourself. When you do this work, something magical happens. You stop being magnetically drawn to people who embody your wounds. Instead, you start being attracted to people who reflect your wholeness. You start choosing partners not because they trigger familiar patterns of pain, but because they see you, appreciate you, and treat you with consistent kindness. You discover that real love isn't the frantic intensity you thought it was. It's the profound peace of being truly known and accepted. And that, Jung would say, is worth every uncomfortable moment of facing your wounds directly. The next time you feel that magnetic pull toward someone, pause. Ask yourself, is this lust, or is this my wound calling out for healing? Your answer might change everything.